And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, football fanatics and draft day devotees, welcome to a special edition of RBLR Bucks, your ultimate podcast for all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the electrifying world of the NFL Draft. I'm one of your co-hosts, Musab, and today we are diving headfirst into the heart-pounding excitement of this year's NFL Draft, where dreams are realized and futures are forged. Guys, I could go on and on how excited I am. I even cooked up a little quick poem for you. On draft day, the Bucs set their sights high, seeking stars to light up the Tampa Bay sky. In pewter and red, they stand tall and proud, each pick a promise, cheering fans loud. In the war room, plans are laid, futures shaped. For the Buccaneers, another draft day awaits. Folks, we got something cooked up for you real special tonight, which is our own 7-round mock draft for our beloved Buccaneers. And also, we got a live draft party tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Details will be sent through our social media pages. So we hope you can join us in welcoming some new Buccaneers who could maybe be some potential key players for us next season. And speaking of key players, we're going to turn our attention to another key player in today's draft day lineup. He is our co-host, or my co-host. His name is Zach Blaine. He is our resident football fashionista. Zach, my man, what's your attire of choice for this monumental occasion? Are you rocking the classic jersey, or are you going to go for more of a tailored approach?
Well, we got a baseball game right before the draft, so I'll probably have my coach's shirt on. But when I get home, I will be rocking the Baker Mayfield jersey for the draft.
Hell yeah, love to hear it. And last but certainly not least, joining us in this draft day festivities is none other than Carter Brantley, the voice of reason in our Buccaneer Brotherhood. Carter, tell us, do you have any draft day special traditions? Or I've already asked you about the attire, but maybe you've changed up your attire plans. What's in your mind?
No, not really any draft day traditions other than hanging out with our RBLR Nation, hopping on, doing a live stream at this point. That's become a tradition. Still gonna be rocking the pewter Derek Brooks jersey. Because that's classic. The classics never get old. Even on another draft night. So I'm pretty excited for it. But I'm also excited for any newcomers. I think other than the draft episode last year, I don't think we've gone live too many times. So if you're new,
this is fun, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if you're new, welcome. Hope you stick around a while. We've got some really great stuff cooked up for you today. And as Musab mentioned, we have a live draft show tomorrow at 8 p.m. So you can tune in for that as well. But for any people returning, maybe you're listening in, you're like, oh, what the heck are they doing live for? And they're usually a pre-recorded thing. Are they going to be able to get through this without screwing up? Hopefully, we'll
Probably
see.
Not. Probably not.
But definitely hit that like and subscribe button. You already know what to do. That's the free way to support the podcast. We'd really appreciate it. You can also give us a follow so you can keep updated on that draft show tomorrow. So yeah, just hit that like and subscribe button for sure. But we'll get right into it. Obviously, tomorrow's the draft, and we did a live mock draft last week's episode. It was like a simulated thing, one of those fancy websites where they offer you 3 first-round draft picks for pick 27 or something crazy, just some silly stuff. But today we're going to do our own mock drafts, each of us individually, instead of having to work together to come to a consensus. This way we can be selfish jerks. We don't have to worry about what these other guys think. So anyways, we'll get right into it, starting with round 1, the fun part. It's what's going to happen tomorrow. The Bucs are coming in at pick 26. Also, as a precursor, same rules as last week. We're not doing any trades because Lord knows it's unpredictable. So we're just going to play straight through. So pick 26, Mr. Blaine, we'll give you first crack at it. Who is your round 1 pick for the Bucs?
So I figured since I could be a selfish jerk, I think we're going to take running back round 1, pick 26.
About to say.
No, I've been pretty high on this guy all off season. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. He's coming over. He's going to be a Buck. He's going to be our starting outside corner.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
you can't turn down. You can't look away from his zone cover ability, and I think that we can work on the man coverage. And I think that he's going to be a very good player in this league, and I don't want to play against him. I'd rather him play on our team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Dijon's an interesting guy. He's had I've seen a lot of comparisons to Kyle Hamilton recently, which is those are some lofty comparisons because some people, obviously he's shown or expressed that he wants to play corner. He's willing to, and that'd be really interesting. And obviously, it'd be a really nice fit for the Bucks. But also, I love that he'd be versatile. He could potentially shift around, move around on the defense. Because that's sort of what Kyle Hamilton does for the Ravens. That's why he's gotten those comps, and that'd be super exciting. I mean, my goodness, if the Bucks could have a Kyle Hamilton type of player with Antoine Winfield Jr., that's a tough secondary. That turns
scary, bro.
Right, that turns a potential weakness into a strength.
Exactly.
So that'd be really exciting. I really like that pick, Mr. Tariq. The floor is yours. Who's your round one pick?
All right, so this one, after doing a couple mock drafts on Pro Football Network.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah.
Not a sponsor. Yeah, not a sponsor.
If you want to be, let us know.
Oh yeah, by all means, for sure. This was kind of a reach. I think maybe it would be nice, but I'm going Nate Wiggins from Clemson. I think I definitely see him in that like maybe 15 to 20 range, if not, going to land in the 26 range for us. But you draft him to start. I think he's a phenomenal player overall. His closing speed is amazing. Blitz as well. And what I really like is, he really gets up in your grill. He's got that dog at him, before the play starts or even during the play or even after, you know what I'm saying? So he's a hustler. But, obviously no one's perfect. I think the one thing that he needs to work on is, try not to get beat just too much. Got away with it in college just because it was college. But now, you're playing with the big boys, Nate Wiggins. So you better change that up. But what I will say is if he doesn't land with the Buccaneers, wherever he goes, I think he's going to be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah. Would be super excited for the Bucks to get Wiggins. He's a burner out there. Like you mentioned, he's got that elite speed, but at the same time, like you said, it did allow him to get away with a few things. So yeah, he can certainly fix some things up, but yeah, if he falls to the Bucks, my goodness, that'd be very exciting. He's certainly one of the top corners in this draft class, and he'd be a hard guy to pass up on for sure. So I'll save the worst for last or the best for last, whatever you want to call it. I'll give my pick Kool-Aid McKinstry out of Bama. He was discussed for a while. We've talked about him. We talked about him last week on our cornerback episode. He was cornerback one potentially, but man, he's really fallen out of favor. I don't know. There's talks of him maybe falling even out of the first round. I don't know how realistic that is. Something to monitor. But regardless, he would be kind of an interesting pick at pick 26 if the Bucks really were eager to go corner and maybe Wiggins isn't there, Dijon's not there, and they're like, well, we still really want to address this position. Kool-Aid McKinstry would be an interesting way to go. Super athletic, can keep up with all the faster receivers and has good length, sort of a jack of all trades, master of none kind of thing. The real weakness with him is that he's not a great tackler, so that can come back to bite you. But regardless, that's my dude, Kool-Aid McKinstry, not just because of the name, even though he does have quite a cool name. So we'll move on. The Bucks pick in round 2 at pick 57. So Musab, we'll start with you, my man. Who's your round 2 guy?
Yeah, my round 2 guy is going to be Marshawn Nealon from Western Michigan University. He's an edge. And at first, in the past, I saw him as a round kind of 3 guy, but I've seen a lot of mocks as well now recently that have him in the round 2. At this point, I feel like, a couple of the edge players that we wanted are already going to be gone. So this is why I'm looking at him. And why I like him at this spot is he's a bulldog. He really gets to you no matter what, especially attacking the quarterback or the running back. For a big guy like him, he is quite agile, energetic. He does lack that kind of finesse, but he's got that strength. Now, something that, anyone can work on is just the explosiveness. Obviously no one's perfect, especially when you're an edge player. Explosiveness is not something that you may not always have. So worst case, he becomes a role player in the rotation. But yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, guys can shoot up draft boards real quick. We've seen it. We see it every year. There's a guy that shoots up, and Nealon certainly could be one of those. And hey, you gotta take advantage. And edge is a huge need for the Bucks. And I'll bring up my pick because he's also an edge player. Adisa Isaac out of Penn State. I think he was a Musab guy during our edge episode. He'd be a bit of a tough sell at this spot if he falls to 57. I don't think the Bucs hesitate if they didn't address the edge position in the first round. And even if they did, they might double up. Who knows? But regardless, Isaac's just really, really good, strong in run defense. He can drop into coverage. He'd be perfect in the 3-4 scheme. He can move sideways really well, sideline to sideline type of deal. And he's definitely really, really great at setting that edge. That's the consensus on him. He just, if he can develop a little bit more as a pass rusher, develop more of those pass rushing moves, then he'd be really, really solid. But yeah, the Bucs going corner edge. I know Musab and I are in agreement on this, but that's just how it is. The Bucs, those are arguably the Bucs' top two needs. So hopefully the Bucs follow that through. But Mr. Blaine, we're moving on to you, big man. Who's your round 2 pick for the Bucs?
I'm going to get out of the edge department right now.
Really?
Okay.
Yep.
Where are you taking us?
I'm just taking us a little bit further up. We're going to go ahead and go linebacker second round. A guy who can get to the quarterback still, but Edgerrin Cooper out of Texas A&M. He's a guy who led his team in sacks with 8. He had 17 tackles for losses, 2 forced fumbles last season. He's a guy who I think has the ability to play coverage as a linebacker, but is more suitable as a blitzing linebacker. He's getting comparisons to like Devin Lloyd, so a solid player, maybe not a superstar level guy, but he's a solid player who's going to get playing time and be effective in this league. And I think what we need most in Tampa is not necessarily an edge rusher, but someone that can get to the quarterback. And I think that in the second round, the way my mock draft played out, he was the best option to get quarterback pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. With Devin White departing, they got to fill that second linebacker role, assuming that maybe they don't see Britt or Servassier Dennis filling that role. But, we'll see. Maybe the Bucs are more excited about either of those two guys than we think. But, yeah, I mean, it's never you can never have enough depth, obviously.
Exactly.
And if I may just chime in, I mean, we don't know if Levante David is going to be with us next year or not.
Absolutely.
So, you also got to think about the future as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they not only can he train his kind of counterpart, but he can also be training his replacement, unfortunately, because, he was flirting with retirement this year. He might flirt with it again, and he might go all the way and just say, hey, hanging up the cleats, I'm done, which, hey, more power to him. He's been
no more flirting. He's putting a ring on it.
Right. There you go. He's getting down on one knee and proposing.
Yeah.
But anyways, we'll move on to the Bucs' first third round pick. They've got 2 of them. Their first one comes in at 89, and I'm going to go offensive line. I'm going to go center with Cedric Van Pran out of Georgia. He's a center. I might have said that already, but regardless, Mr. Van Pran, he was one of my guys in our interior offensive line episode. He's a bit projected a bit early in the third round, maybe for the Bucs. He might not make it to 89, but the Bucs could always trade up. I mean, they've got a couple of third round picks. They could also package their fourth round pick. Maybe their extra third encourages them to do so. Regardless, if Van Pran is there and they haven't spent a pick on the center position, which, hey, Jackson Powers is a really big name out of Oregon. He's been floated around as a potential first-round pick, but let's assume they don't do that because it's my draft and they haven't. So Van Pran's one of my guys. He's out of New Orleans, super durable, and he's out of Georgia. I mean, everyone out of Georgia is great because they've won, a bunch of national championships. So yeah, he's definitely really, really strong in the run game, which is something the Bucs really, really need, as we've seen and talked about ad nauseum. The Bucs struggles in the run game has a lot to do with, Rachaad White's not perfect, but my goodness, the interior has been rough without Ryan Jensen. So Jensen's retired. So this would be a great replacement for him for sure, assuming that he doesn't, he beats out Robert Hainsey for the starting center role. Mr. Tariq, though, who is your pick for round 3, pick 89?
Yes, sir. Yeah, my round 3, pick 89. I'm going center as well. My big 3 are, edge, cornerback, and center. So Here we are with center. I'm going Hunter Nerzad from Penn State. First of all, multi-role offensive lineman. All right. In the past, he was my guy when we were going over the linemen. 2021, he started at left tackle and right tackle. Then 2022, he was left guard most of the time. And then 2023, this past year, he was at center, allowed 0 sacks this last year. He's got quick feet, good anchor, For a big guy like him, he is quite athletic and he has that kind of playmaking block capability, which can definitely help us out in the run game. Ideal frame, all that is nice, but you know what is really special to me when I was watching this tape was he latches onto the defender. So from the top of my head, and I didn't really see anything that, oh, wow, this is a big red flag or something, but, he still has a lot of work to do. Obviously, if you're looking at this guy around 3, then clearly he's not someone who is really, really standing out to you. But Carter, like you mentioned already, I'm going JPJ, Zach Frazier, then Cedric, and then Hunter. If those first 3 guys are not available, I think we should definitely get Hunter Nerzad. But I do want to mention that, yeah, Cedric Van Pran is right above him for me.
Yeah, but like I said, and like you've kind of alluded to, Van Pran might not be there. Unfortunately, that's kind of how things play out. I think the Bucks, the Kyle Trask year when they drafted Kyle Trask in the 2nd round, I think Creed Humphrey went a pick before him, and we've all seen how Creed Humphrey has turned out, and unfortunately how Kyle Trask has turned out. So that's just the nature of things. Sometimes you'll just miss out on a guy. But Mr. Blaine, who's your pick 89 guy?
Unfortunately, you stole my pick for pick 89, so I don't have I don't have much to say on it outside of I think everything you said is spot on. He might not be there, but in my mock draft, he fell to us at 89, and I think that could be the steal of the draft. I'm not as high on JPJ as everyone else is. I haven't watched very much center film study, though, so I am by no means the expert at offensive line this year, and I'm man enough to admit that. But I do have us taking.
So Zach, if you don't have a guy, do you still think an offensive lineman though, or do you think there could be another position?
No, I think at this point we've established through our other episodes that our top 3 are edge rush or pass rush in general. Corner and O-line, and I fixed our first 2 with my first 2 picks. So I think at this spot, one of these 2 3-round or 3rd round picks we have has to be an offensive lineman, and
for sure,
or specifically an interior offensive lineman. So I think our best option at this spot is Cedric Van Pran. I agree with the other 3 that you named. I would be lying if I said I knew who your guy was. But the other 3 I do know, and I'm cool with them. But I think my favorite pick here is Cedric Van Pran.
Yeah, Van Pran. Who you're talking to, man? I'm the hidden gem master.
That's a solid point. I didn't even think about it like that.
That's facts. You're talking to Mr. Hidden Gem himself. I mean, that's his middle name.
That's a good point.
I mean, it's Musab Hidden Gem Tariq, right?
I might have to get like a little hidden gem necklace. You know how like teams have those turnover necklaces.
Yep. A hidden gem necklace for Mr. Tariq, especially if they hit on one of your guys in the late rounds. My goodness, that's got to happen.
If they do it, I'm buying you a hidden gem necklace. I don't even care.
For sure. But you know what else is a hidden gem for people that are seeking an upgrade in their wardrobe? Is definitely the RBLR shop, shop.rblrsports.com. Type that bad boy in and you can check everything out. We've got Rays, we've got Bucks, we got Lightning, we got Rowdies. The Rays are playing right now. They're beating the Tigers as the last I checked. Lightning are in the middle of a playoff run. The Rowdies are always playing. And of course, we're talking about the Bucks. They got the NFL draft tomorrow. So, maybe you're excited about whoever they draft tomorrow and you want to pick yourself up some merch. So we'll give you a promo code since it's draft season. It's Cannon, CANNONS. You can type it in, get 10% off your entire order. We'd really appreciate it. But yeah, that's shop.rblrsports.com. Check it out. So now we'll move on to our second 3rd round pick for the Bucks, coming in at 92. So Mr. Blaine, we'll start with you, my man. Who's your pick 92 guy?
So it might be a little bit of a reach, and I will admit that it very well could be. But I have us taking Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. He is just a big body. I think 6'6", 200-plus pounds. With decent speed, I think that him learning behind Mike Evans would be a phenomenal stepping stone for him into a bigger role in future seasons. I don't necessarily see him coming in and being a day one impact haver. Like, he's not going to record 1,000 yards his rookie year, but I do think that he could be very, very good in the future. And I think at this point in the draft is when we need to look at what can you do for me now, but also in 3 years, sort of a deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not just drafting for the next season; you're drafting hopefully for the next 3 or 4 years, depending
Exactly.
on where you're drafting a guy. Yeah, I love Wilson. He was one of my receiver guys when we did our receiver episode. Just like you mentioned, big body guy. He certainly won't have any problem in the red zone.
No, not at all.
Yeah, him and Evans would form a really elite dynamic duo in the red zone. They'd be tough to stop. I'd be curious to see as his career progresses if maybe he takes a Darren Waller approach. Maybe he shifts to the tight end position at some point. I don't know. That's pure, just speculation. No one
But I think that that's a very possible,
for sure. I think he'd have to.
very possible speculation. Like,
Yeah,
I think
he
that
might have to bulk up a little bit.
Exactly.
But nowadays tight ends just aren't really blocking anyways, at least if you scheme it correctly. So he could be maybe a potential versatile piece to line up with Cade Otton or give Cade Otton a break or anything. So it'd be interesting to see how the Bucs would handle him. But Mr. Tariq, who's your pick 92 guy?
My pick 92 is Bo Braid, safety from Maryland. He's a strong safety. He's got versatility, especially when it comes to coverage. And now the only kind of downside is just that, he does have some missed tackles and penalties. But overall, I mean, he is a ferocious safety, especially at this point. I think this is a good pick. And the reason also why I'm going safety, I know we got Whitehead and Winfield, but who do we have behind him? Kayvon Merriweather, which I don't know much about / barely knew about him actually as of right now. But no one else behind him. So it's time to just kind of stack up a little bit more on the depth pieces as well. Having a nice little dynamic duo of safeties is all beautiful until someone gets injured or something happens, and then you're stuck with Kayvon Merriweather.
Yeah,
Delaney, right?
or D. Delaney, yeah.
Right, man. Poor D. Delaney and Merriweather just taking a beating in this episode. But no, I definitely feel you. He's definitely someone to keep in your mind, especially in these middle rounds. Braid is definitely a great target for the Bucs because, like you mentioned, it's Whitehead and Winfield Jr. and then kind of shrug. So you need some depth and yeah, Braid would definitely provide that. So I'll give my guy. Mine is a guy that that our listeners are probably familiar with. He was one of my favorite linebackers in our linebacker episode. It's Jeremiah Trotter Jr. out of Clemson. He's another guy. I keep reaching for the Bucs. I'm kind of going best case scenario. I'm an optimist. What can I say? But Trotter might not be there by pick 92. In fact, he might be a pick 89 guy if things fall a certain way. Maybe they don't fall in love with any of the interior offensive line or whatever the other positions that they're looking at. So he would be a really great guy to draft just because, he's got the lineage. His dad was a linebacker in the NFL. He has great instincts because of that. He gets himself in the right position. He's maybe not quite the athlete that a lot of these other linebackers are. But that kind of sounds, I hate to compare him, but he kind of sounds like Lavonte David. David's not a speedster by any stretch of the imagination. So I think pairing those guys together would be really helpful because, it's kind of a similar play style. We see it all the time, with the Rays. I hate to go back to baseball, but Kyle Snyder was really instrumental in Tyler Glasnow's development because they're both big, tall guys. Jeremiah Trotter, Lavonte David, similar thing since they're both similar players athletically. So I'd be really excited to see how he could develop next to the longtime veteran out of Nebraska. So now we'll move on to round 4. The Bucs are picking at 125. So I'll get us started. I'm going Ray Davis, running back out of Kentucky. He's definitely a super between the tackles power guy. Not going to be super explosive, and he's a bit older, but he was super productive last year at Kentucky. I mean, really, really good. So he'd just be a really nice compliment with Rachaad White, and he's a running back. So I wanted to make Zach Blaine smile. So I wanted to get him happy. Which correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Blaine, but I think I picked a running back before you did, unless you're going to surprise us with a running back at this pick. So Mr. Blaine, if you don't pick a running back here, then I beat you to the punch. What's going on?
Is it too late to switch my
It is
draft around? In my mock draft, the one that I did not have a running back I wanted at 4 or at round 4. I know.
Oh my goodness.
Everyone was gone already, man.
Bizarro world. What the heck? Oh
Crazy.
my.
With that being said, I went to a position of need again. We are going to go ahead and take an edge in round 4 here. Small school guy, Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian. I'm sure everyone has watched a few of their games. He's an edge guy, a small school guy that it seems like this Bucks front office always seems to have at least one small school guy drafted. Usually it's an offensive lineman, but I'm going to take a defensive lineman this time. A guy who is an athletic freak for his size, or for his position, I should say, and is probably not going to be a starter in the first few years, but is another guy who in the future I think has the potential to be a plus starter in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the small school guys can kind of sneak under the radar, but they've always got a real chip on their shoulder, and they can be really, really fun. I don't want to say kind of underdog stories, because if they're getting drafted, there's no doubt about them being good, because the NFL just said, "Hey, you're good enough to get drafted." But they know they're aware of where they go to school. They know they weren't necessarily recruited by the big name schools. So yeah, Hunt's definitely a name to keep an eye on for sure. Especially if the Bucks are still in need of an edge rusher at this point in the draft. That wouldn't be a position that I would wait too long on.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even be shocked if we take multiple edge rushers in this draft, because I do think even though we signed Randy Gregory and William Golston's back and we've got some young guys, it seems like Tampa's not opposed to stocking up at edge. We've drafted a defensive lineman first round the last 2 years, so I wouldn't be shocked if we ended up going edge in the first round. But I just think that if we take an edge too early this year, it's taking development away from some of the young guys we drafted last year.
Yeah, I mean, they doubled up last year with Jose Ramirez, who I don't even know if he's on the roster anymore, to be clear.
He is. He still is.
Oh, he's on the practice squad. Okay. And then Yaya Diaby, obviously, he was the big name of other than Cansey of this last year's class. So yeah, it's certainly not unprecedented for them to double up on the position. It'd be really interesting. But yeah, I mean, Hunt would be a good one, and we'll see. But Mr. Tariq, who's your pick 125 guy?
Yes, sir. I've mentioned this guy before. I still remember when I first saw him. It was on NFL Draft Buzz. He just had this really sick haircut duo, and he was this mean mugging. I said, ooh, okay, this guy might fit well with us. Anyway, this is Tyron Hopper, linebacker from Mizzou. And the reason why, actually, after watching his tape and, actually being sold on him, not just because of his looks.
You didn't just get lost in his eyes.
Yeah, no, sure. Well, yeah, he's got the agility that allows him, to evade the blockers. He can move through traffic. He's a specialties. He had got a lot of snaps on the special teams as well. So I think he can definitely make some kind of impact ASAP. Now, what he's known for, unfortunately, is he's known to, kind of struggle with his hands when it comes to avoiding blockers, especially when it goes against, when he goes against larger opponents. He does have a high missed tackle rate, but the dude's a beast. Just sometimes fails to execute properly. But at this point, I think that he is definitely a valuable piece wherever he goes. But I think he has high ceiling, and worst comes to worst, like Marshawn Nealon, I think he can be a good role player.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely important to build up that depth and draft special teams guys, especially in these sort of later rounds. I know round 4 is still kind of in the middle, but you can still definitely fill out your team with some quality special teams guys, because special teams, special plays, special players. You know what I'm saying? So definitely gotta. Yeah, exactly. Definitely gotta check it out. So yeah, he would be a really, really quality round 4 pick. But now we're moving on to round 6, pick 220. So Mr. Tariq, I'll just throw it right back at you, brother. Who's your pick 220 guy?
Oh man, all right. I'm ready, but I do have to say, the more I thought about this, this is where I'm kind of like, okay, listen, this is who's left. Do I love him? No, but you know what? I'm sold on him, I guess. So this is Tip Ryman. Tip Ryman, tight end from Illinois. This is where it gets a little bit interesting, just because our tight end room, I know we have a lot of guys, but other than Cade Otton, I feel like no one else really did anything or barely made any kind of impact.
That one O'Keefe touchdown wasn't impressive to you?
Hey, O'Keefe's a blocker. Let's not disrespect him. Come on now. No O'Keefe slander on this podcast.
Yeah, no, O'Keefe might as well be a offensive tackle.
Yeah, he's a fullback.
But it's not. He's not a receiving tight end. I agree.
I think he's basically like Cody Mock was in college. Starts as a more of a smaller kind of lineman or whatever, and then out of nowhere, loses his teeth and stuff. Anyways, I'm going Tip Ryman, tight end Illinois. I wouldn't be shocked if he's gone ahead of others above him, especially when I was doing those mocks. I wasn't always able to kind of be able to get him, but I think he is a hidden gem of a tight end. I appreciate his versatility. But the Bucs, the Bucs are going to need someone to share Otton's load and make those big plays. I don't know if I want to just guarantee the greatness as well, especially if you're getting a guy in the 6th round. But if he's used right, and he produces, I think him and his team will be happy. For a 6th rounder, I'll tell you this, he does block really well. During the combine, actually, I found this out just through some random fan who commented on his YouTube mixtape. During the combine, he was the only tight end who completely manhandled the blocking sled. Yes. I don't know how much I want to take of that, but anyways, he's an underdeveloped catcher, route runner. That's kind of the downside, but I do think that he can be a good role player tight end. Especially, when you're getting a guy in the 6th round, I think that's all what you're really looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. You're just looking for a guy who can maybe fill in an emergency, maybe stash him on the practice squad. Ryman's definitely a name to watch. You definitely want a guy who can do a little bit of everything as a late round tight end. And yeah, it'd be nice to get someone who could maybe lighten the load for Mr. Otton, because my goodness, he played quite a few snaps last year. So it'd be nice to see how effective he could be, how effective Cade Otton could be if he was maybe not just driven into the ground. Tip would definitely be a really interesting guy to keep an eye on. Zach, how about you, man? Who's your round 6 guy for the Bucs?
I got us going back-to-back edge rushers. I got us taking Miles Cole out of Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. I call him an edge rusher. I think he's kind of forced into that edge rusher role because he's 6'6". I think he has the ability to play more of an outside linebacker role. But that size you're too big to play linebacker at 6'6". So unfortunately, I don't think he's big enough to be an every down edge rusher, which I think kind of fits in well with Tampa's system. They rotate out their D linemen a lot, and I think that he has the potential to be really good. There's got some stuff he's got to work on. He's got to bulk up a little bit, but just his instinct and his speed at the edge it gives him the ability to cover the running back out of the backfield if he has to. Don't make him solo tackle him, because that's one of his weaknesses is his open field tackling. But I do think he's a guy that could develop into a starter at some point and play special teams right away.
Yeah, absolutely. You need those guys with some versatility, like the tight end position. Edge rushers, especially in the Bucs scheme, like you mentioned, they need to be able to drop back into coverage sometimes. We've seen Shaq Barrett, JTS, Yaya Diaby. They all kind of sometimes, Bowles loves his creative blitzing packages. Yeah. So, that'd be really important for a guy like that. So my guy is Ja'Wan Briggs, interior defensive lineman out of Cincy. Or Cincinnati, excuse me. I'll say the whole school name. He's right. He's got some nice versatility. He can line up on the inside. He can be a decent pass rusher, and he's got a lot of experience, which is really nice for these late round picks. Because obviously you kind of want to bank on a guy with some high ceilings or a high ceiling. I'm sorry. But with Briggs, you're getting a guy with a little bit maybe of a higher floor than the rest, but maybe a bit of a lower ceiling. So it's kind of a not super great athletically, and maybe not as strong or as much length as some of the top options, in this draft, especially when it comes to interior defensive linemen. But he had a really nice combine, so he has been shooting up a little bit on the boards. So he could be a hidden gem, shout out Musab. And he'd be a nice backup alongside, Logan Hall, William Golston, whoever the interior defensive linemen are. So Briggs is my guy in round 6. And I'll finish us off. We're coming off, coming into the round 7. We're finishing up this episode and finishing up this mock draft. So I'll start us off. Carter Bradley, quarterback out of South Alabama. No, I didn't pick him just because he's from Tampa and his name's Carter. Right. His dad
I thought you said yourself for a second.
Right. I know. We actually went to the same elementary school for like a year. So, it was kind of crazy. He was, I think, a year younger than me or something, but, he bounced around a lot because his dad was a football coach. So luckily he's got, football in his genes. His IQ should be pretty high in regards to that. And he's athletically competent. That's kind of the best word I'd use for him. He's not going to be strictly a pocket guy, but he's also not, Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray by any stretch of the imagination. And he's got a pretty decent arm. His main issue is just, working on progressions, especially against higher level competition. Because South Alabama, no disrespect, it's just, it's the NFL. It's a tough transition for guys who went to, big time school. So for a smaller time school quarterback, he might have a little bit steeper of a learning curve. And it's the typical thing with college quarterbacks. He needs to work on his accuracy, when to put a little bit more touch on the ball. That seems to be the consensus issues with him. But for round 7, I think he'd be a really nice guy to maybe stash on your practice squad. Maybe he'd eventually become the backup instead of Kyle Trask, depending on the Bucs' opinion of both him and Trask, how good of a training camp he has. We'll see. But Carter Bradley, that's my guy. Musab, how about you, man? Who's your round 7 guy?
Yes, sir. My round 7 guy is Isaac Guerendo, running back from Louisville. I think we just need a speedy change of pace to Rachaad White. He is a versatile running back who's got the speed and the size. Now, he's not as shifty as I want him to be, but he's a truck, all right? When watching his tape, what I like is that he can find the holes when his offensive line gives it to him, of course, and he turns on that turbo speed. He was also a special returner in college as well, and I think his kind of, cutting, change of direction, agility does need improvement, but I do think that he can definitely, impact immediately wherever he goes. He can do something for us. What and how much, we'll see, but we need some help in the running back room for sure, and I think he'd be a good candidate.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is Kansas City drafted a late running back named Isaac. It was Isaac Pacheco, obviously, but he worked out pretty darn well, if I say so myself. So, hey, maybe it's the first name. I don't know. That's kind of a stretch, but what are you going to do round 7? How about you, Zach? Who's your picks 246 guy?
I'm not going to draft anyone from Oregon. No, I am going to draft someone from Oregon State. We're taking Deshaun Fenwick. Is it a reach? Yes, it is. My original draft here was Carson Steele out of UCLA, but then I realized it wouldn't be an RBLR draft from Zach Blaine without an Oregon State player. So we're taking Deshaun Fenwick in the 7th round to be a backup running back to Rachaad White. I think he's a good change of pace with Rachaad White. I don't think he's going to push for starting time or take any reps away from Rachaad White, which I think is important to the development of Rachaad White. I don't think, as much as I want another running back, I don't think that's what's right for Rachaad White. I think Rachaad White wants to be that lead guy and wants to be the only guy in a sense. So I think that he's a guy that's going to come in, be a good change of pace, kind of play the Chase Edmonds role, but maybe a little bit better, hopefully. But I do realistically think that he is an undrafted free agent guy. He's come on a visit to Tampa pre-draft, so he's at least on their radar.
Yeah, and he's definitely an interesting guy to monitor, even if the Bucs don't draft him. And like you said, maybe he'd be a great undrafted free agent type of fella. So yeah, he'd be really interesting. I'd like to put it out there. I didn't draft a USF guy, so
or an LSU guy. That's even more.
No, what am I doing?
I feel like that's your signature move. Is the LSU guy? Mine's the hidden gem guy.
I had to have
the Oregon State guy.
I wasn't. Yeah. In my draft on our document, I didn't put him in there, and I'm sitting here the whole draft, and I'm like, I can't do this, man. It's just not. It's not me, man.
That's right. It's against your heart of hearts. It's against
exactly.
Your for sure. I mean, I guess I replaced my USF guy with a guy named Carter, so that makes sense.
Yeah, we're good. We're
even. We both filled our self-interest because we're both selfish people.
100%.
For sure. Musab is he's selfless as hell. He's drafting strictly on based on what he thinks.
Looking for the hidden gem, baby. That's all he's worried about.
Exactly. We're out here picking a guy named Carter and picking an Oregon State undrafted running back. Like we're just flying by the seat of our pants. But anyways, that's our mock draft. We really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Like I said, for all you newcomers, hope you enjoyed it. We got a live draft show tomorrow. We're going to be doing a little watch along. You can see me and Mr. Tariq at first, and then I think Mr. Blaine will join us eventually after, like he said, he's got some baseball games to attend to. So he'll be all
games to win.
That's right. That's the real thing.
You got some kids to strike out.
5-0. We won on a walk-off home run last night or Monday. Granted, it was an inside the park home run, but 5-0. We're gonna try and keep it going.
Hey, it went over the fence in the scorebook. That's what I
Wait,
said.
aren't you the one that pitches? so you gave away a walk.
He gave up a king.
I pitched to my
Man. Oh man, Buns.
You
bro.
gave
You-
yeah.
He's
Wow.
I wasn't even
Wow.
actually pitching, believe it or not. I was first base coach. All I was doing was go, 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 go.
Oh, Yeah, he is.
Oof.
He would fit right in with the Rays bullpen right now. With the
Oh,
way they-
This is
Anyways, sorry, I had to throw that in.
Oh,
That-
I need Tommy John.
right.
Oh,
it's a juicier story than the Otani story.
Facts. Oh man. Well. Anyways, we really appreciate y'all tuning in and having to sit through all of our tomfoolery and shenanigans. Like I said, if you want more of this tomfoolery and shenanigans, tune in tomorrow. We'll be going live at 8 p.m. once the first round starts, and we hope to see you guys there. But for now, hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you heard. Give us a follow as well at RBLR Sports. And as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.